Welcome back to another episode of Raw Thought, where me and ChatGPT delve into my life and the things I think have gone wrong and well in it. This is episode 2. We're going to be talking about attachment styles and why do we run from love. Now, let's get into a deep dive around attachment style. I'm going to give you a list of attachment style meanings so you can get the foundation of what everything means. So, the 4 main attachment styles: secure, comfortable with closeness, balanced independence, able to trust and be trusted; anxious, fear of abandonment, clings to love, craves reassurance, feels easily rejected; avoidant is fear of intimacy, values independence over closeness, walls are up, struggles to trust, often emotionally distant; and disorganized, mixture of anxious and avoidant, craves intimacy but also fears it, chaotic push and pull in relationships. So I'm an avoidant attachment. So first question I have from ChatGPT is, where does avoidance start for men? Why were boys praised more for toughness than tenderness, and did that train us to shut down before we even knew what intimacy was? I believe that's true. Especially as a child, I was hearing a lot of, what you crying for? I'll give you something to cry about, which then I would say kind of trained you to internalize how you feel in certain scenarios, and then you're having to create the narrative as to why you feel that way. And if you leave a child to create a narrative every time as to why they feel that way, and it's not being explained to you, you will create whatever narrative that makes sense to you. And if that's the narrative that makes sense to you, you will run with that, because that will now be your safe space narrative. So that's why I think being praised for toughness creates little monsters inside you that you don't realize are monsters. Why do so many men confuse withdrawal with strength when it's actually fear dressed as independence? If you withdraw from a situation and you regain control, you see that as a position of strength. I can withdraw from pretty much everything and anything to regain control of myself and so much the scenario. But again, it will be me fearing it because I'm not addressing the root cause of it, and that's a problem in itself. So a lot of men, you need to kind of start addressing things for what they are, face on, and hear what you don't want to hear, and don't withdraw from every situation. Some situations require you to withdraw, but not everything. Why do we keep repeating our father's silence instead of asking ourselves why we were scared of their presence in the first place? I don't get this question. I never had father in my life, so if we're going to go off just parent alone, understand why they were silent or whatever their presence was in your life in the first place, but don't take it as gospel. You have to break the shackles of your parents' kind of ways of doing things. At the time, they may have thought it was right, not necessarily would have been right, but you have to give them that grace period to address it. But if they don't want to address it, then just let it be. Why is avoiding love easier than admitting we don't know what to do with it? Imagine you've got all the ingredients to make this great meal. Everyone around you is either making 5-star meals, or you've got some people cooking and they don't know what they're cooking, but it's shit, but they're cooking. They're making an effort to cook. And you've got this and you're just like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what I'm going to make. So it's better to just, I'm not cooking at all. I'll order takeaway. And that takeaway fills that void. And then you get another takeaway. And it's always takeaway. That's what it feels like. That's what avoiding love is. That's why avoiding love is easier than admitting we don't know what to do with it. When you start saying you don't know how to love and you don't know what to do with the person that's giving their love to you, it makes you seem like you're inadequate, you're the weirdo. And I've had people look at me like, say, are you crazy? I'm like, bro, what do you want me to do? If I don't know something, I don't know something. There's bare things I know that you don't know. I'm not going to make you feel like an idiot for it, but this one's a bit more internal and you think it's universal, but it's not. And I think people need to start understanding that part. If you just don't know, you just don't know. So, next topic, avoidance in modern dating. Why do avoidant men ghost, breadcrumb, or fade out instead of saying the truth? Are we cowards or just terrified of the fallout of honesty? We're definitely both. I definitely have moments where I'm a coward because I just can't be bothered. Like, it's just facing the music and you don't want to hear the music. For the other person, it's great because then they get the clarity and all of that stuff. But for me, because I know the situation and I know how I feel, I just can't be bothered. It's not new information to me. I know what I'm not interested. Yeah, it's not fair on the other person. Not disagreeing with that, but when you're in this avoidant kind of like mindset, fair isn't an option, and fair doesn't really matter. Why do avoidant men ghost? Again, it's easier to just disappear than it is to have the conversation. Now, I don't agree with ghosting, but I don't disagree with it either. People have things going on in their life. Doesn't matter what it is, they've got to deal with it. And if you don't have time to be in their life, you don't have time to be in their life. Everyone is temporary. Not everyone is forever. So you kind of got to understand that as well. Breadcrumbing is a term where you're given like the bare minimum and it keeps people around. Now, I have a different theory on this. If you have higher standards, you will not allow for breadcrumbing. So the breadcrumbing theory shouldn't work. Goes both ways. If you attract people with higher standards, you won't be able to breadcrumb. So you breadcrumb where you can. Like, do you want an eagle or do you want pigeons? You kind of look at it that way. Not calling anyone eagles or pigeons, but you get the theory on breadcrumbs versus eagles are getting big meals. Different type of bird. And the fade out. The fade out is definitely more me. A conversation will run its course and then we stop speaking and that's it. When the truth is that conversation could have ran its course 2-3 weeks ago. But because of the cowardness or just terrified of the fallout, it just runs its course that way. Why does independence feel safer than commitment when deep down we're still hungry for connection? Because you can rely on you and you only have to rely on you and you only have to rely on understanding you and your problems, and it's definitely safer that way. Imagine you're taking someone else on board and then you're sharing your problem, but a problem shared isn't a problem halved, but also we're sharing your problems. They're telling you their problems. Now a problem added is a problem doubled. So you kind of got to look at it both ways, and independence will always feel safer. It doesn't make it right. Commitment comes with compromise and sacrifice. It's just, are you willing to make the compromise and the sacrifice? Right now, I'm not. I don't have it in me to compromise or sacrifice anything because of everything that's going through my head and having to work through it. And that's the difference. But people get annoyed at you. And a problem I have with the whole avoidance thing in modern dating is people just don't understand people. They don't understand. They probably go as far as love languages, but they don't understand attachment styles. And attachment styles are more important than love languages. Because if you don't understand how someone even thinks, they're not going to be able to even process the love languages on top of that. Why do avoidant men chase unavailable women but run from healthy ones? Because chaos feels familiar, or because stability feels like a trap? I don't chase unavailable women if unavailable means they're with someone. That's nothing to do with me. But run from healthy ones. I can tell you now, nobody is a healthy one. Nobody's healthy, male or female. Nobody is healthy. There's an issue somewhere along the line with everyone. There's unresolved trauma. There's everything. You just have to go, again, compromise and sacrifice. The chaos feels familiar because everyone is blaming everyone else for whatever's happening. And stability feels like a trap because it's too safe. You're not used to this feeling of safety through someone else. But it's not a trap. It's you haven't succumbed to their communication style, or they've not come down to your attachment style and kind of met you on your level. Everyone's trying to be on their level, on their page, and they want someone to meet them there. When sometimes you both have to take a step down or backwards or sideways to meet each other. And I think that's where we go wrong in the modern dating era. And why is it easier to brag about being unbothered than admit we're lonely? I can easily admit I'm lonely at times, in terms of when things are going wrong, or it's dark days, or you feel the world's against you. There's times where I feel lonely, but more time I'm unbothered because cool. Like, it is what it is. Either I've made a silly decision or someone else has said something. I can't live my life always down and sad. Like, when people see me and they're like, oh, what's wrong? Like, more time, nothing's wrong with me. I just don't smile. Just a standard thing. I don't smile. It's not a personal thing to anyone and what anyone else is saying, or doing. But I can admit I'm lonely, but more time I am just unbothered, and that bothers people. All right. Sex versus intimacy for the avoidant man. Why do avoidant men seek sex as proof of worth but panic when sex threatens to turn into intimacy? Sex is transactional. It's temporary. It doesn't require much other than physical. We normally panic when it threatens to turn into intimacy because it requires more in-depth conversations, which builds intimacy, more understanding of the person, when realistically we're still trying to avoid that side of life. So it's difficult, and it's difficult for women to understand that, because naturally women are more into intimacy than they are just sex, whereas men see it as a means to an end, where women can continue going when they have sex. They don't just stop, whereas man is just one and done in terms of that moment. So I understand why we panic when it turns into, but I don't understand why it's a proof of worth, though. That's the bit I'm not getting, because I don't see sex as a proof of worth. I see it as a way of connecting without opening up, because that's what I probably avoid more. Why do we treat women like bodies we conquer instead of souls we connect with? Is it lust or just a way to keep them at a distance? Oof, big question. It's definitely lust, for me anyway, and it is definitely a way to keep them at a distance. I've been the person that a female will talk to, we'd have slept with each other, and then they'll try and like delve into other conversations, but I'll always somehow bring it back to sex or anything like that, just to avoid it going down that road. And then they probably normally feel like, oh, you just want me for sex. I don't actually just want you for sex. I just don't know how any other way to have you. And I don't know how to say that without it sounding mad, because not everyone wants to hear that, but it's the reality of it is. And it's not always sexy, because I had more time, I don't care. Like I can go without, or there may be someone else, or whatever it may be. I'm just in that space of, I'm not interested in your soul. Your soul is not what brought me to you, so it's not what's going to keep me either. But at the same time, your aesthetic brought me to you, or your personality brought me to you. That's not going to keep me either, because I just don't want to be in something, because I just don't feel I can right now. And it's so difficult for me to say that, because then I'm saying it, and then all they're hearing is, we're never going to be anything. And that's fine. Like, that's not a problem. But then I'm also looking at it going, I don't want to lose what I have. So then you just keep that cycle going. And obviously in that, probably realizing it more now, why I'm saying it out loud, is they're getting more hurt along the way. And that's not fair on them. Why do men leave right after the orgasm? Was it ever about her, or just a temporary silence inside our heads? Ooh. Men, I don't leave right after the orgasm. It's never, that's too transactional for me. Like, there is a level of empathy, but if it's just a thing of, to me it's always about her. Whoever her is, it's always about her in that moment. But you shouldn't leave after the orgasm. It should always be a level of aftercare, so people don't feel like shit. And I think that's where a lot of men go wrong at times as well. Why does physical closeness feel tolerable but emotional closeness feel unbearable? I'll be honest with you, there's times where physical closeness feels unbearable as well. There's times where if you become too clingy with me or too on top of me, I'm, like I said before, I'm inside my head screaming, get the fuck off of me. But I can't say it because I don't want you to feel a type of way. So I just stomach it, and then I get annoyed. I get so internally annoyed, and I start to despise you. But I'm biting my tongue to avoid the fallout. But inside I'm raging because I don't want you near me. And it's not because I don't like you, it's just because it's too much at times for me. And it's not directed at anyone in particular, it's just how I feel across the board. And that goes with just in general everyday encounters with people. Is if there's too much, like my friend Alaman, he was like, oh, let's go grab some food. I went, oh, like we trained this week and then we was playing football with each other. I was like, bro, relax, like that's enough, like there's too much time together. That's not because I don't like him, that's my guy. But because of the feeling of it being too much, I didn't like it. So but with a guy I can say it. When it comes to a female, it's like, especially a female you're being intimate with, it's difficult to say stuff like that. All right, the damage avoidance leaves behind. Why do avoidant men hurt women who want love, then label them clingy when we're the ones with holding connection? So literally what I just said, I'm not labeling them clingy, I said just being clingy. But we hurt them because we can't give them what they want, and what they want to give isn't right for us. So I think it's more of a compatibility thing, let alone them withholding connection. Because if they understood what we were like, then, and vice versa, then we could meet in the middle, and that's where the sacrifice and the compromise comes. But because neither of us are probably being open about how we are, you're not going to get anywhere. And then the women get hurt because we're the ones that can just push things to the side and detach from it. Why do we build walls to keep people out, then complain about being misunderstood on the inside? I don't really like people like that, so I don't complain about being misunderstood. I just say I am misunderstood. And it takes time for people to understand me and get to know me, and me to let them in. And I'm okay with that. I don't need everyone to understand me. But also, all I want is, if you misunderstand me, is you to just have context on what you're misunderstanding. Because not everything you know is fact, and not everything that is fact you know. So that's where I'm at with that one. Why do we repeat the cycle? Choose, withdraw, hurt, without ever asking why. I only ever started asking why 2 years ago, when I cheated on my ex multiple times, and I was like, this can't continue, because I'm just going through the same nonsense as per usual. It gets to a point in a relationship I'm just like, can't do anymore. Then my head is like, I'm out of this. And there has to be a point of breaking the cycle, but it's figuring out why. And then I figured out I was an avoidant attachment, so I'm starting to learn things more. That's why right now I'm not trying to be in a relationship. I'm not trying to have anyone to let down, so to speak, because I'm still working on me. That doesn't mean I'm not what's the word? I'm not outside, but I can be outside and not be in a relationship. And this is another topic that I'm going to touch on. But yeah, so breaking the cycle, asking why is important, but doing the work after asking why is even more important. Why do men fear vulnerability more than violence, even though one can heal and the other only destroys? Violence is a means to an end. You punch, you hit, you punch, you kick, whatever it may be. Once you do that, you can kind of recover from it. But the vulnerability side of it is more of a forever feeling. You do something, you don't get nothing back. Now, I can be vulnerable. This is me talking on the podcast about my life. That's vulnerable. But I'm okay with that. I can do both, vulnerable or violent. It's just, it took a while to become more vulnerable. Being violent is second nature. You play fight from a kid. You then have fights as you grow up. Most guys, normal guys, probably have had 4 real fights in their life. Real fights. I've had more. Some life-threatening, but it is what it is. You learn to live with it. So yeah, being vulnerable is definitely a fear of men because of how they was conditioned as children, but you should be more vulnerable, especially to your close ones. Like, I got friends that I'm now, like my boys, like godfather to my son boys, and I'm telling them, you man need to be more open. I don't want to hear you got crap going on after the crap started. I want to hear about the crap during the time that is happening. So those are the people and things that I tell my closest ones to speak up. Final topic. Can avoidance be healed? Why do men hide behind "that's just who I am" instead of admitting that it's who they became to survive childhood? And you know what? I'm a "that's just who I am" guy, or I used to be a "that's just who I am" type of guy, because I didn't know what was going on. I believe it can be healed. I'm not healed, but it can be healed with a lot of work, especially if you start going therapy and understanding things. You need to understand the history of it before you can overcome anything in the future. It is who I became to survive my childhood, but I only realized that afterwards. I didn't know that was going on in my childhood, and no child can say they knew that was going on because they don't understand these things. So it's not who I am, it's who I became, but it's who I became to probably suppress things. Why do we expect women to wait for us to heal instead of doing the work before we get to them? Because you don't want to be lonely and single for however long it takes. You should be, because all you're doing is damaging other people along the way, but you have to do the work as well. If you're doing the work at the same time and you're minimizing the damage you're causing, then it is what it is. But you have to be vocal with the people you're dating that you are this attachment style, you are going to therapy, you have done X, Y, and Z in your past. You don't have to tell them everything, but give them a broad picture, and then they'll let them make decisions themselves. Why does the idea of becoming secure feel boring to avoidant men? Does peace feel like death to someone who only knew chaos? If you can find peace in the chaos, you can find peace anywhere. And that is what I'm going to say on that one. If you can find peace in chaos, you can find peace anywhere. You just need to understand what peace you're more comfortable in. Now, with the chaos comes problems. If you can find peace in peace, then it's all rosy. But know that in the chaos, it's still rosy, but there's thorns. And it's just how much you want to hold on to that rose while your hand's bleeding from the thorn. Why not admit avoidance isn't independence, it's imprisonment, and the only key is vulnerability? Yeah, you know what? I think you should be vulnerable. Way more vulnerable than what you are. And I'm talking about myself and everyone else. The more vulnerable you are, the closer you get to people, the more people understand you. Whether they like you, it's irrelevant. You don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about anyone liking you. You just need to worry about being you. And if they like you for you, they like you for you. All right, so here's a bit of data that you can have. 25% of adults are avoidantly attached. Men are significantly more likely than women to display avoidant attachment. Avoidant partners report lower relationship satisfaction, less intimacy, and higher rates of conflict avoidance. Over 50% of divorces involve at least one insecurely attached partner. Therapy and conscious self-work can shift attachment style. 30 to 40% of insecure adults move towards secure with consistent healing work. So yeah, that was attachment style episode, and the work for you lot is, what attachment style do you think you are? and how has it impacted your life? And I'll see you again on another episode of Raw Thoughts, me, myself, and AI.